Welcome to Frankly Speaking Hurricanes Football with your host, Frank Mazdu. Welcome to Frankly Speaking Canes Football with my brother Robert. Be a Cane. Welcome. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We're doing a preview of the Alabama, I love the shirt, of the Alabama game. And we were talking about some key matchups. So, Robert, I want to go over with you. Basically, we'll start with the coaching. You and I think, are on the same page as far as coaching is concerned, that you have to give the nod to Alabama on the coaching side of the ball. While Miami's done a good job and Manny Diaz has put together a really good staff, I think that Alabama, with having NFL coaches on their staff that outnumber what we have, they've got a more seasoned staff. While they turn them over quite frequently, they've just got a better staff. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that with the credentials of NFL on their resume, that definitely gives them a nod in terms of the experience. And I think you spoke to this before, and that is the idea of game time adjustments. Making those adjustments while the game is in play during halftime, making those critical decisions at pivotal moments within the game. All that experience comes into play. So you definitely have to tilt your hat in the direction of Alabama when it comes to the experience that they have on the sideline. I think that's going to be it's going to be a challenge for Manny and his staff to match wits with the Alabama coaching staff. I have a good friend that always says it's not about the Jimmy and Joes, it's about the X's and O's. So we will see just how that plays out. So we'll see how the game flows, but I think it's going to come down to those decisions that are being made in the heat of the game. And with that type of experience on your side as a coach, you play with confidence, you play with that knowledge of knowing that these folks know what they're doing. Not to say that Miami doesn't have the experience, doesn't have some good coaches, but that NFL pedigree really kind of put things at a different level.
Okay, so let's play this game. So if you and I were on the sidelines, okay, you're going up against Alabama. You win the coin toss, you elect to receive the ball instead of kick to Alabama. And I think that, quite honestly, if I'm playing Alabama and I win the coin toss, I want the ball first because I want to try and get something going. So
yeah.
Right? We'd agree with that. So my question to you would be, Alabama goes out there with their 3-4 defense, their base defense, their 3-4, and their DBs. How do you attack if you're Rhett Lashley? Okay, what do you do? And I realize that the beginning series is prodding and probing, but it's also scripted. So do you come out to shoot and try and do a ball control game and run some mixed correction, or do you try and hit them for some, test their corners and test their DBs? What are your thoughts? Do you try and test them at the line of scrimmage, or do you try and test them in the backfield right off the top?
Knowing that their secondary is a little suspect, I will come out the gate, spread, hurry up, no huddle, pick up the pace, and put them on their heels. That's what I do. I will come out like it's the fourth quarter, last 2 minutes of the game, and you're down by 10.
Wow.
And everything is with a sense of urgency. Get them guessing. The playbook now should be wide open. Trickery, all kinds of stuff. I would just throw as much as I can to them so that they don't know what our game plan is, right? None of that scripted. Let's pound the ball. Let's run and see if we can run. No, they got those linebackers. Let's test those linebackers. Let's see if they can cover. Let's put the ball in King's hand. Let him throw, run, play action, put the receivers out there, spread them out, run them out wide. That's what I would do immediately. No huddle, hurry up, spread.
Okay. So
I,
would you run some RPO on them at the beginning? And would you call a draw or two for De'Aaron King called plays in that first series so that you make them aware that De'Aaron King is fully healthy and can run on them?
yes,
'Cause- yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I would treat Derek King as though he's 100%. I would do the RPOs. I mean, anything that would put them on the heels early. Don't give them a chance to set up. Don't give them a chance to substitute, and you run them fast break, full court, baby. Let's go.
I love it. So you're doing that fast pace. You're trying to get your 80 plays in. You're spreading them out. And then the other question that I have, one of the other vulnerabilities that we really haven't talked about, but has been expressed by Alabama fans as if they have a lot of vulnerabilities, which they don't. But this is one of them. Is they say that they've been very susceptible to the tight end, to the middle of the field. That's been a major concern. Either the backs out of the backfield, going straight down the middle of the field, or the tight ends, that they've spread those linebackers, and because they're coming towards the ball, because apparently they try and come at you and get pressure with the 3 down linemen, but they'll blitz and they'll twist and they'll do some different stunts and they'll come at you. So that does open up some of the middle of the field. So there would be an opportunity, or could be an opportunity, to go for a home run ball at the beginning. So I like your style, and I think and I agree with you. I think it would be, let's move them laterally, let's spread the offense, and let's see how they cover the deep threat. Let's get a couple guys out there deep and see what happens. Whether you hit them or not, let's just see what happens. Now let's turn it around.
Let me make just one more point.
Sure.
The reason why I say spread is definitely, but you're then taking the game from their strength, right? Which is their front 3, front 4.
Right.
You taking the game away from them. Get the ball out of King's hands as fast as possible. Swing passes, all that, and you're forcing them to line up quick. You're not giving a chance to call plays as a defense. You're forcing them to have to play unscripted, right? So you're taking it away from their strength on defense, and that is their front, right? It is their defensive front. So that's what I would do, and find out very quickly how they respond, right? 2 or 3 no huddles, boom, set up, and then bring that running back into the backfield, make it look like you're going to run it, play action, boom, hit the tight end up the middle, swing passes. I mean, I would do all that. I would do all that. I would not try to pound it. I would not try to pound it.
So you would not try and establish the run from the very beginning with a double tight end set and go in there and try and overpower them.
No. Don't try to prove anything. Or we can match up with them, or we can run, we could pound it, 3 yards, 2 yards. No.
It's interesting you say that, because that's the philosophy that Clemson used against them. And Clemson had some success. Now they've lost to Alabama, but they've also had some success against Alabama. And a lot of their success was what you're talking about. No huddle, spread, move the ball quick, get to the ball. We run the ball. We pick our spots when we run the ball. It's not how many times we run the ball. It's the yards per carry. In other words, we're picking the spots. So I think I agree with you. It would, and so that offensive line's got to be in tremendous shape to be going up and down the field with no huddle, which is, and that they're going to be in tremendous shape. So I like that. Now, let's say we flip that coin and Alabama wins the toss. Now they put their number 1 unit out there on offense. What do you do on defense?
Yeah, on defense, because they have a young quarterback, right? I would change the view as much as I can, right? I will blitz him left, right. The corners and our defensive backs, that one graphic that you showed, it's something like, I think it was like every one of our defensive backs have 28 plus starts,
Yes.
right? A total, I believe, was 149 starts,
Right.
evenly distributed.
Right.
If you look at their offensive skill players, it's 110.
Right.
Not only is it a 50% difference, just about,
Mhm.
but 52 of those starts are coming from Richardson by himself. So that's one player with 52 starts. Okay, that's great. But when you look at the distribution of our tenure, of our experience, it's evenly distributed.
Mhm.
So say, well, why does that matter? Experience. That's why it matters, right? So I believe you're going to see us come up to the line and press those receivers, right? So that that quarterback is going to have to place those balls. He's going to have to place them like perfectly, and is going to have time to do that, right? So I would press the receivers. I will blitz him immediately, throw different looks at him, and just see how he handles it. I will find out how good this quarterback is early. So
Mhm.
whatever sets, whatever plays you have to expose or try to expose the quarterback, that's what I would run at them.
Conversely, Alabama's going to line up and they're going to say, we're going to go with either a double tight end. We may go with the three receivers, but we're going to run the ball to protect Bryce Young. So they're gonna go right at the teeth of the defense to test Miami's defensive line and linebackers because our weakness is our linebacker core. They're not going to want to throw against our DBs and safeties. So knowing that they're not going to want to throw the ball, we're going to have to stack the box because they're going to want to run the ball. So it's going to be an interesting. So we've got the five-star Williams kid that came in safety, 6'5", 225 pounds, and runs like a corner. Now Frierson is going to be the striker, but there has been talk that he could slip in there as a striker as well to help, play both, be able to drop in coverage, take their talented tight end out of the game. They've got a great tight end, but I think he's going to be looking at if Saban's going to be. Well, I don't know how Saban's going to call it, but I would think that they'd be going short passes to the backs, running the ball, and probably some tight end work, unless they think that they can take the top off. And they've got that one receiver from Ohio State that can take the top off the defense. So we'll see. But I don't think that they're going to want their quarterback to drop back and sit there for 3 or 4 seconds unless he has to.
Not
So
early,
no, not early.
not
Exactly.
not early in the game. I think is more about what you initially stated, and that is running plays, short little swing passes, get the ball out of his hand quick, get him comfortable with the rhythm of the game, the pace of the game, because what he played in 9 games
Yeah,
total.
well actually he's appeared in 9 games in mop-up duty, and it's
Okay,
kind of like Richardson, who has got 52, but remember he's a redshirt senior, I
senior,
believe,
yeah, he
and I could
missed
be
it.
wrong, but he's seen a lot of action as a backup, and so
Mm-hmm.
he's a seasoned guy, and so has Mechie. Mechie's seen a lot of action, but they are replacing eight of the 11 offensive players. So then the question I ask you is to get a little more specific. You've got a starting right tackle, a new starting right tackle, a new starting left guard, and a new starting center. So how would you attack that on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, it goes back to blitzing, um, showing different formations on the defensive side of the ball to see if the center, because the center is a communicator. He's the one that's trying to communicate to the offensive line about what's going on, where the pressure is coming from, so on and so forth. So now you have a young quarterback, young center. So it's all about confusion, trying to get them to see something that they're not seeing, or to have them behave in a way based on what they're looking at differently. So, yeah, I would say it's all about creating some confusion about what they're seeing. I think you're going to see a lot of man coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll see a lot of, I don't think zone is a good way to go, simply because that gives a new quarterback, uh, an opportunity to throw to an area. And then the defense is more of reacting to what that quarterback is doing. So I see them playing man, on, as I said earlier, to those receivers, and try to get the linebackers to blitz and create some havoc in the middle. So we will see. That's how I see I did our defense playing. Um, but I think with the experience in the backfield that we have, it's going to be tough to throw over top. I really think it's going to be tough to do that. The big question for us is our defensive ends. As you know, we lost two very, very good DEs, and I'm anxious to see how our defensive ends are going to do, because they're going to be key in containing the play. I don't know if Bryce is a running quarterback, if he's the type that scampers. I'm pretty sure he has some of that in his tool set. But I don't know much about him as far as that is concerned. He's going to have to be, because I believe that we're going to get some pressure on him. And if the defensive ends have some level of success, then it's going to be interesting to see how that quarterback handles that pressure.
Robert, I couldn't agree with you more. My biggest concern is the defensive end setting the edge. I think that I think that's going to be, because they're going to run the ball. They're going to run off tackle. They're going to run between the tackles. And I also believe, to help this quarterback settle in a little bit, unless they see a glaring weakness on the Miami side, I think what they're going to do is they're going to drop a couple screens and short passes out into the flats to the running backs and to the receivers on crossing routes. I think what's going to happen too is you're going to have those three receivers running, some of them running crossing routes. And the big test for us is going to be the linebackers, man. Because if those linebackers start getting burned in the flats, and these guys are running crossing routes, then they're going to be able to start to run the ball. And I think they're going to go to work immediately in the middle of the field. That's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to test Stevenson on the outside, and I don't think they're going to test DJ Ivy on the outside. And you're going to have to bring Bubba Bolden up into the middle, along with the striker Fearson. So you're going to have, in my opinion, you're going to have 8 in the box. No, not 8, 7. You're going to have 7 or 8 at all times in the box, because they just got so many ways to attack you. And at least with Bolden, you can match him up against a tight end, because I think they're going to use the tight ends in the backs early. And I think they're going to try and do ball control. They're going to try and, methodically go down the field and take time off the clock and put you behind that way. And so I think that you're right. I think it's got to be Katie bar the door, send everybody and make sure that they have, gap protection and that they know what they're doing. Send everybody, gap responsibility to go in there and do what they got to do. And you got to hit that center, that I think it's the right tackle and the left guard in the center. You're going to have to really focus on confusing those guys with twists and stunts. That defensive line is going to have to do a lot of movement. As a matter of fact, you know what? I think that would really be exciting. I don't know if you've seen what New England does and what Miami Dolphins have been doing, but they've actually been standing up their linemen, and they've been moving around just before the snap of the ball and positioning them to really give different looks. I think our defense is going to have to give a lot of different looks, not just set and get ready to go, but to actually move pieces around just up into the snap. So that means we're going to have a tremendous amount of mental discipline to stay in our lanes. So it's going to be a huge challenge, but it's not Alabama's offense from last year, but it's going to be a very big challenge. So on that side of the ball, we're going to have to get some 3 and outs, and we're going to have to win first down. We're going to have to win first and second down, because if we don't, we're not going to win third. We're going to have to win the first and second down in a big way. On the special team side of the ball, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So just a couple more comments about the defense. Last year, one of our big challenges was tackling.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully they have resolved that. Right. That probably was the number one issue with our linebackers. If you look at the games where there's a lot of yardage after contact, it was a lot of yardage, and tackling was an issue. There were several games where we would hit the guy behind the line of scrimmage, wouldn't wrap up. We're going for the big hit, right? Shoulder, you think you're going to pop him. You hit him, he'll bounce off the hit and pick up 7-8 yards. So that, and holding them on third downs, right? That was another problem that we had last year, is that third down. You got them 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5. You got to keep them from making that first down, forcing them to throw. But if that running back, he's a big boy and he's good. If he's able to have his way, then that's all you want from that running back. I mean, from the team in terms of getting that quarterback flowing. And I hate to bring up the North Carolina game, but I suspect that game has been heavily studied by Alabama. How was North Carolina able to do that? All right. And that was with our prize defensive ends. And man, they chewed us up. If they can have 50% of that success, that's right, 50%, because those boys ran up almost 600 yards on us last year. If they can get 300 yards of rushing, that will be successful. So there's no doubt in my mind that they're looking at those tapes and no, what did they do? And I'd be doggone if they don't try to do the same thing. Hit that middle, bounce to the outside, bounce to the right, bounce to the left, and test the discipline of those defensive ends. Are those defensive ends coming up and boxing in the play, or are they diving right to where they think the play is going and then leaving the edges open? All right. So that's the last little comment I want to make about the defense. So special teams, our kicking game, I don't have any worries. I don't have any worries. I think our punting game is going to be good. I think our punter, all tatted up and everything, is he's going to carry his load. I mean, I think when it comes to field position, I think we should be fine there. We do have a question mark on the new kicker that we have, but in practice, he's been tearing it up. He's been doing everything he's supposed to be doing. So we have to wait and see, but I think that is all now. Now, as far as return, I don't know who the returner is going to be. I mean, I haven't heard anything. I don't know. They're going to put Harley back there. Are they going to put the X-Man back there?
My understanding is they're looking at Harley, the X-Men, and Smith, and they've Smith, because of the speed. But I think in this kind of a game, you want your good hands guys in the back
foremost.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Even if you got to wave your hand above your head and just catch it, and let's rock and roll. Because when I look at, and then coverage, when I look at that North Carolina State game last year, and that one return after halftime, we were about to open it up on them. We had just scored, and we kicked off to North Carolina State, and Bam Bam, or whatever his name was, ran that ball back, almost 100 yards. I mean, that almost broke our backs, right? So coverage, hopefully they solve that, because there have been a couple games where the guys are picking up 30 yards, 25 yards from the kickoffs or from the punts. We can't have that. You cannot have that. You cannot work hard all game. You're within 7. You score. You're within 7. You kick off, and they run it back.
And they give it up. Yep.
Now you're down by 14, or they bring it down to the 10-yard line. Those are game breakers. So coverage, I'm anxious to see if we have resolved some of the issues that we experienced last year.
Yeah. Conversely, you mentioned North Carolina. If we're looking at the weaknesses at Alabama, University of Florida played them really tough. Clemson played them tough. They blew the doors off of Ohio State in the championship game, and Ohio State is a tremendous team physically. And I think scheming is a big part of this. But this is a completely new offense. So they've got a completely brand new OC. He's probably going to keep the bulk of the offense that they had the year before, maybe make some adjustments. So it's going to be an interesting situation. But to your point, one of the mental lapses that we've had in the past, Robert, is we'll go and score a touchdown, and then we're kicking off, and it's like they took a coffee break, and then they come back and run it 80 yards, the other way, or score, and we cannot have those mental lapses. You cannot play that kind of ball. But to your point, I've got another question for you, because this is a big part of the game, and I think this could be a difference for us in keeping it a tight game. We now have a bench. We now have bodies that are seasoned. We now have young players that have some experience. In the past, we haven't had, and even last year with the COVID and everything else, I don't think we had the experience, no spring practice. That's not to give any excuse, but we have more experience. So I think that the key is going to be how well the second and third unit, and I heard this today, which was very encouraging, that there's very little difference between our first offensive line unit and our second offensive line unit. So the offensive line is going to be key. So let's get to that. What do you think are the key players that have to contribute in a big way for us to be in this game against Alabama? So give me your top three.
How about, well, King obviously
Right.
is going to have to have a big game. As a unit, I think our defensive front is going to have a big game.
Okay.
Simply because of the sake of the linebackers. All right. They're going to have a big game. So that's one. Two, I think that the receivers will be the third. Right.
Okay.
And I'm not saying, and I would say that outside of Rambo and Harley, whoever that third one is, he's going to have a big game. So not just the receiving core, but that third receiver, if it's a freshman, Smith, one of those cats, Brenson, they're going to have a big game, right? Because I believe when we go to the spread and we're out there, you cannot be dropping balls. You can't be, those are the three areas. King is King must have a good game. He must. If he's sliding around and just can't do it, boom. Now, above all of that, I guess you could probably say the whole team, but that offensive front for Miami must, because King is nothing. Yeah. And those of you who are listening, King is nothing without that offensive front. The receiving core is nothing without that receiving core. I mean, without the offensive front. So that offensive line must play lights out. No holding, stupid little movement, offside, 5 yards here, 10 yards here. You're going back. Can't have any of those type of mental mistakes either. So, I just probably named the whole team. So it's kind of hard. So if I was to put it, the offensive front must have a big game. King must have a big game, and the defensive front. If I would say the three, those will be the three. Those three have big games. Everything else will come. The receiving core will come. The running game will come. The linebackers will come. But those will be my three.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I'll take it a step further. For me, Zion Nelson has to have a huge game, the left tackle. And I think Najon Donaldson at guard has to have a huge game along with Gainer. It's the offensive line, like you said. That offensive line has to have all of them. They can't have any mental breakdowns or mishaps. They all have to have a big game. And then going on the defensive side of the ball, Nestor Silvera's Nestor Silvera got to have a huge game along with Corey Flagg and Keyshawn Smith, Keonta Smith, the linebacker, the striker, the weak side linebacker, he's got to have a huge game. Okay, he's got to have a huge game. The linebackers have to have a big game, so that the defensive backs don't have to be coming up in support, and you don't have to have the safeties up there all the time in the box. So they have to have a big game. The good news, I think, is that we have bench players, so that when people have to rotate, and Avante Williams, having him available for the game, I think is huge, because Avante Williams is going to play a lot of snaps at safety as well. So I'm excited about that. So that being said, what do you anticipate the score to look like? Let's say, well, first of all, before we get to the score, what quarters do we have to win this game? Do we have to be strong?
First quarter and the third quarter.
Okay.
I think that we have to be very strong in the first quarter, and third quarter we have to be strong, because both of those quarters set, in my opinion, will set the tone for the halves. Right. So that first quarter and the third quarter, I'm not moving off the point that I made or that we've talked about. Must average. Well, not average. No, I'm not going to say average. They're going to have to score somewhere between 12 to 14 points a quarter.
Yeah.
That's right. They have to be north of 35 points, well north of 35 points.
Well north.
To win, and must be north of 35 points to be in the game.
I agree.
All
I agree.
If they're struggling to get to 28 points, no good. That's only 7 points a quarter. No good.
I agree with you. I tend to think it a little bit differently. I think they've got to win big. I'm not talking about just win, but I think they got to win. They got to win like 14-7 or 17-7 in the second quarter going into halftime. And I think that they have to win huge in the fourth quarter, at the top of the fourth quarter. They got to finish stronger. They've got to be, because Alabama will kill you in the fourth quarter. There are a lot of teams that hung with them till the third quarter, and Alabama always seems to win the second quarter. They may start a little slower, but in the second quarter they put the pedal to the metal, and then in the fourth quarter they're going away. Late third, early fourth quarter. By the time it's the middle of the fourth quarter, it's over. It's a done game. So I think we're going to have to be mentally tough, and we're going to have to. And it goes back to what you said about coaching and adjustments. The only way you win those quarters is with adjustments, because if you win the second quarter, it's because you figured out what they did in the first quarter. The first quarter could be a tie. You both go 7-7 or 10-10, whatever it is. But the team that pulls ahead in the second quarter, they got to go into halftime with a lead. And they've got to go into the fourth quarter with a lead. They've got to have the fourth quarter won. They got to finish strong in the fourth quarter. So I think that's going to be the key. All that being said, now that we've done all that talking, over and under 60 points for the game. What do you think?
Say it again.
The over and under points for the game. Would it be 60 or higher, or 60 or lower? To your point, if they got to score 40, it's going to be over 60. Each team will beat what we're saying.
Oh yeah. I think it's going to be over 60.
Over 60.
Oh, yeah, over 60. The combined total is going to be over 60. Definitely, I think both teams are going to score 30 or more points. I don't doubt that. If it's over 60 and we only have 20, then
it's not a good day.
That's not. Office. But I can see Alabama scoring 40.
Okay.
For sure.
Yes.
And that's why I'm saying that you don't have to put up 12 to 14 points a quarter. Yeah. And once again, not average. Not average. In other words, you can't say, oh, we got 21 points in the first quarter, so all we need is 7 in the second quarter, or got 21 there and say, okay, we need 7. No. You got to stay on cue, and that is 14 points. If you score 21, you still got to score 14 in the second quarter, because Alabama's not going to stop.
No,
they're not going to stop.
And they're deep.
And they're deep. And I do agree with you. When you look at their games and you follow their games over the years, you're thinking that these teams are going to hang with them, and something happens in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Something happens in the fourth quarter, and a lot of people say that it's the conditioning. They're in shape. They are ready to go wire to wire, play the full 60 minutes, and fourth quarter it begins to show, particularly with their rotation, substitution, their depth begins to show. At the beginning, middle of the fourth quarter, other teams just cannot hang with them. So that's my view on that.
All right, now let me ask you this: prediction for final score.
Wow.
One part.
Isn't that something we're about a week out, right? We're about what,
Yep.
about 8-9 days out.
9 days out, because we're on the 25th.
Yeah, 9 days out. So we're not gonna have a session before then.
No, we'll have a session before that. I'll tell you what. Don't give me the score.
No, yeah.
We'll have a session before that. Let me ask you this. We talked about the guys that have to have a big game. Okay. We talked about the running backs. Not a whole lot. Okay. But I am going to ask you, in your opinion, because you know the backs really well. Of the backs that we have, if Chaney is healthy, okay, Knighton is healthy, Harris is healthy, which back do you think fits better against Alabama in the teeth of that defense to get to because my contention is whatever back it is, it's got to be able to get to the second level, get past the linebackers. And that's another thing we didn't talk about. And I want to ask you, we have to get explosive plays, chunk plays. How many chunk plays do you think we have to have over 20 yards to be in this game?
Anywhere from 4 to 6.
Okay.
I would say 4 to 6. You don't get a lot of them, but if you can get somewhere around 5, 20 plus yard plays, that will put them in a position of, hey, what are they doing, and having to adjust to that. Then
and King has to have 300 yards, right?
Yeah,
King has to have 300 yards.
So you got 5 of those. That's 100 yards right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
So yeah. And what was your other question?
No, my question is, of the 3 backs that we've got.
Oh yeah. I think Harris. I think durability. I think his athleticism, ability to block. And I think he's built for the long haul.
How many carries, Robert? How many carries? If things are going well, in other words, if we were just looking at a stat line and we missed the first half, how many carries would make you feel good that we were controlling the game for the running back? How many carries?
I would say 30%, 35% of the total plays.
Of the total play. So you're looking at probably 12 to 13 carries in the first half. Yes, right. Because if they're running 80 plays, 30% of that is 24. So yeah, 12 in the first half, minimum. And 12, it doesn't sound like a lot. But if they're going to go to a spread game, they may not have a lot. But yeah, I would say he would have to have minimum of 12 carries. Yeah. So you gave me Cam, and I agree with you on Cam. Cam is healthy. I think he's got to be the featured guy until he proves to you that he's not the featured guy.
Right.
But on the receiver side of the ball, who would you say has got to be the guy? In other words, when we need to get 3rd and 10, when we need to get, in other words, in every game, there's a receiver that's going to give you, okay, let me put it this way. Who's the receiver that's going to get over 100 yards, 100 plus yards? Who's going to be the leading receiver in this game?
Wow. That's a tough one. I've seen Harley play a lot. I haven't seen Rambo. It's between those two. I would say that they're going to try to lock down Harley and have Rambo prove. So I say Rambo is going to get, 70 to 100 yards, 80 to 100 yards. Rambo. So I would say he would have to get that amount of yards for Harley to begin to get open, because I think they're going to try to lock up Harley and make Rambo prove. Not to say that they have doubt in Rambo, but if you're going to pick your poison, That's what I
Yeah.
would say.
I
And
have to agree with you with Harley. So I agree with you on Harley, and I agree with you on Rambo. The other player that I think is going to have to step up in a big way is going to be Will Mallory. I think Will Mallory's going to have to get over 100 yards.
yep, yep. I agree with that.
Okay,
Also,
awesome. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll end this session. And I want to thank you, my brother, because those insights were fantastic and those observations. And we will have another session before the game where we're going to share our predictions. We're going to share the score. We're going to share the score by quarter. And we're going to talk about the stats that we expect to see in a little bit more detail. Robert, God bless you. Be a Kane. Again, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. Talking Canes football. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we look forward, and we're very hopeful that this be a great game coming up against Alabama.